We've got a question from a viewer. Can I have my gun in the glove compartment while picking up my son from school? And here to help us answer that question is noted criminal defense attorney Tom Grief. Thanks again for being here, Tom. And we'll make sure he gives us an answer that is not, it depends. So, putting you on the spot this time. But before we get into that, we have a gun giveaway going on that everyone loves to hear about, according to the comments section. It's going on right now, and you can enter for free, but it ends really soon. And yes, we do give away a gun all the time. You can find out how. Just click on the terms and conditions. Just click the link in the description down below to reveal which brand new gun you could win. All right, Tom, we're going to use Wisconsin as an example because that's where we are and that's what we know about. So, can you have a gun when you drop your child off at school?
Okay, we've got to build some vocabulary because if I'm not allowed to use depends or maybe or if, and if I'm going to be boxed into some answers, we need to figure out where you are dropping them off. Are you entering the school grounds? In other words, the actual grounds of the school, right? So if they've got an asphalt driveway that comes in and there's a little drop-off circle or whatever, that's going to be the school grounds, all right? The answer is probably no, okay? And I say probably because maybe you're an on-duty police officer or there's some sort of statutory exemption. But for everybody else, the answer is no. Mm-hmm. If you have, in Wisconsin, a concealed carry license and you're off school grounds, perhaps you're parallel parked on the street, okay? So you're off school grounds, but you are within 1,000 feet of the school grounds, the answer is yes. If you do not have a concealed carry license and you are parked on the street, then the answer is probably not. And I say probably because there's arguments. I don't see many prosecutions coming out of this. So there's kind of the, well, look, here's the status of the law. The law is no-go. However, this is where we're at. There's also, I will add, in Wisconsin, since you did mention Wisconsin, there is a legislative effort to modify these laws to make it so that, I actually did a YouTube video on almost this exact topic. And one of the things I did is I added up how many years of prison you're exposed to in Wisconsin if you just go ahead and drop kids off. And we're talking dozens of years of prison is what you're looking at if you just go through an average day of pickup drop-off for a week. And that's just one kid, one school. It escalates rapidly, obviously, as you keep adding. So the laws as they are not exactly firearm protective friendly. They're not 2A friendly.
And that's available at our uscca.com/laws. We have an explanation about that state of Wisconsin, what the rules are and what they state and how they're interpreted. As a law enforcement officer, I have always told people who have asked me as a cop in my jurisdiction because, Division Street runs right in front of the elementary school, and that's where the buses drop kids off, and that's parents have the drop-off point right there, that if they're carrying concealed at that point, they're within 1,000 feet of the school, they stop the vehicle, Junior gets out, great, have a nice day, head off to school. As long as mom or dad with the gun on them doesn't get out of the vehicle and start walking around on school property or even within 1,000 feet, it's going to be okay. Nobody's going to mention it. Nobody's going to talk about it. I don't have any reason to make contact with that person and say, do you have a gun? All I see is a mom or dad dropping a kid off and driving away. And I think that's where some of the confusion comes in because people are reading the letter of the law and then they have the federal 1,000-foot ban of guns within the school zone area. And yeah, I think our legislature could clear that up with probably in short order if people just stopped yelling at each other and just decided that they were going to do this. But
it's a complete mess.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's a complete mess. And there's few things I get more questions about from parents than how do I protect my family but take my kids to school?
Yeah.
And the answer is good luck. I mean, that's the candid answer to this, unfortunately.
But again, if you're doing everything else right and you're just dropping the kids off at school, if you don't do a crazy burnout as you pull away from the school, the curb in front of the school in the school zone and driving like nuts, law enforcement officers have no reason to then make contact with you and initiate any sort of contact which might end up resulting in a search of the vehicle, a search of your person. And at that point, yeah, you've had the gun on you and you've dropped it off and driven away. I'm not advocating people break the law. I'm saying that there is officer discretion and there is, that Fourth Amendment right to not just be searched. And I can't sit outside a school and say, guy's got a USCCA sticker on his car. I'm going to go look for a gun and see what happens. I don't get to do that.
Right. Yeah. And there have been cases where officers, so you come from a very pro 2A section of the state.
Yeah.
I live in a very pro 2A section of the state, but right next to a very anti 2A section of the state. And as a criminal defense attorney at the largest criminal defense firm in Wisconsin, we get cases from these anti 2A sections. I have seen incidents where cops have used bumper stickers about this car protected by Glock or things like that as a reason to search someone's vehicle. I've seen that. So this is where, in my view, we've got, and I think your view too, we've got a tangled mess of laws that are difficult to understand. They're clear as mud. And to make things even worse, there's the law enforcement discretion where everything starts there, right? Mm-hmm. Because the prosecutor can't charge if they don't have evidence. Yep. And the evidence typically, almost always, now I'm just going to call it 100% of the time. I'm sure someone can find a case where this hasn't happened, but it's pretty darn close to 100% of the time, starts with officer reports, right? So if there are no officer reports, if the officers choose to turn a blind eye to something for whatever reason, it is what it is at that point, right? And you see this on both sides of the political aisle. You see this with sanctuary jurisdictions from an immigration standpoint on one side of the aisle. You see this with sanctuary jurisdictions when it comes to firearm issues, oftentimes on the other side of the aisle. Sometimes from a libertarian angle, you may catch it on both, or whatever the case may be. Not about politics, just observing kind of as an attorney, here's the legal framework that we run into. But it's one of the most frustrating things I have to deal with is explaining why if you got arrested on the west side of the street, you'd be looking at this outcome because you'd be in this county. But you got arrested on the east side of the street, and that's a different county. Yeah. And that's the reason why they're trying to put you in prison for 3 years. On the west side of the street, they probably would have given you a high five, and off you go. Yeah. And it's not always just, right wings this way, left wings that way. I mean, it flip-flops on different issues. Mm-hmm. So that's something to be very mindful of, is we're not only discussing what's the black letter of the law, it's what's the culture of law enforcement and prosecution. What are they actually interested in going after? Because you'll see radically different outcomes from connecting counties on the identical fact pattern.
Yeah, and it's just something that people need to be mindful of. And I just tell people all the time, don't commit more than one crime at a time. So the
old phrase, one of my favorites.
Yeah, don't commit more than one crime at a time. If you're going to be speeding, don't have a trunk load full of dope. Thanks again for your insight. I know that this is not an easy question, and viewers may not like the answer, but it's not an easy question, and it's something that people have to keep in mind. So thanks again for being here. And as we talked, you mentioned that you posted your own YouTube video.
Yeah.
So is there a Tom Grieve YouTube channel out there that's
there is
competing now? Or
it's not competing. Yeah, it's complementary, right. and it's it's very humble by comparison to the USCCA flagship.
As one would expect.
As one would expect. There's no competing, right? But we do break down this exact question with vocabulary, with some pretty snazzy graphics of here's how everything looks. And we really drill into, okay, here's what you need to know as a parent. Here's your crash course as a parent on what you can and cannot do. Well, it's just Tom Grieve, my name.
Tom Grieve over there on YouTube. Well, you said snazzy graphics, so I'm going to have to put a bug in the ear of the production team that up our graphic level a little bit.
I gotta do something, right?
Yeah.
I gotta do something. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for being here, and thank you, folks, for watching all the way to the end of the video. Quick reminder again, we have that gun giveaway going on, so click the link in the description to learn more. I'm Kevin Michalowski. If you enjoy guns, freedom, and everything about concealed carry, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. We'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.